All right, everyone. Good evening. My name is Kimmy Sauer, and I am Councilman Gray's Chief of Staff, Director of Policy. I'm going to hand it over to our Director of Constituency Services and our housing guru, Darian Clausen, who is going to introduce tonight's speaker, that is going to present on all things tax sale. Darian?
Hey, good evening, everybody. I know it says Kimmy on my thing, but my name is Darian. I'll change that in a second. But thank you for being here tonight. We have Donald Wright from the Department of Housing and Community Development. He's the tax sale ombudsman. So he's administering the tax sale
Uh-oh, Darian, I
deferral
think you
program, which he's gonna talk about this evening with extension with paying their property taxes. So he'll go more into detail about that. And we're just really excited to see the turnout tonight, and we hope you guys find this very informative. Donald, go ahead and take it away and let me know if you need screen sharing abilities.
Yep, I will need screen sharing ability um, in a moment. So, good evening, everyone, all of the wonderful residents of the 8th District. My name is Donald Wright, and I am your Baltimore City Tax Sale Ombudsman. I work in the Department of Housing and Community Development. I am a son of Baltimore. I love Baltimore. I was born here, raised here. I went to Dunbar High School on the east side. I think that whenever you get up and you talk about Baltimore, that one of the questions people want to know is what side of town are you from? Which I'm from the east side of town, and what high school you went to. And so I went to Dunbar High School here in Baltimore, and so it's my pleasure to greet you all and Councilman Gray, who is a friend. It's a pleasure to greet you all and to tell you more about the work that I do for the city and the work that I do in tax sale deferral. First, let me start by going ahead and sharing my screen. All right. All right, Kimmy, let's see. Are we are we sharing now?
Yep,
All right.
we can see it.
Okay. All right, perfect. So let me start by saying that tax sale is really an extension of the finance office. So when we talk about tax sale, that lives in our finance department. The work that we do in DHCD is really about the tax sale deferral, and for me to be the person who helps constituents get the information that they need to be able to try to stay out of tax sale. And so we really partner in DHCD and in finance. We're most of the time we're on the same meetings all the time. We get a chance to work together, but just want to provide that level of just differentiation between the work that we do. So this is just a brief organizational structure. I am the director of the Office of Tax Sale Deferral and Constituent Affairs for the City of Baltimore, which is housed in DHCD. Just by way of structure, Assistant Commissioner Tommy Williams. Then we have Deputy Commissioner Nicole Hart. She facilitates all of the programs under home ownership and housing preservation. So under that, we have our weatherization program, we have our lead unit, we have our rehab unit, we have loan servicing, we have homeowner incentives unit. All of those units fall under my division. Our integrated services, our crisis team is there. Our light program is there. So all of those programs that you all may have heard about live in our home ownership and housing preservation unit. We are are excited. We have a new leader. Mr. Tim Keene is our commissioner, and so we are excited to get to know him and experience him and to serve under his leadership. And so that's a new change. And of course, our fearless leader, our mayor. Um, and so Mr. Brandon Scott, who we all appreciate his service and his leadership to our community. Just a few things that we'll cover tonight. Um, I'm not sure if I have the entire time or how much time I have, but tonight I will explain the tax sale process. I will also share some important dates for the tax sale process. I will explain tax sale deferral, and then I'll share some resources about some of the things that we do, also some things that we have coming up on the radar that you want to be mindful of, even as you navigate through this tax sale season. So, just quickly, what the question is, what is tax sale, right? So, tax sale is in Baltimore City when a person does not pay their taxes, that they did not pay their unpaid debt on their property. It is when the debt is sold, right? It is when the debt is sold, not the property itself, right? So a lot of people want to hear, my house, I lost my house in tax sale. My house got sold in tax sale. It doesn't mean that your property changes ownership. It means that the debt from your property changes ownership. And so when a homeowner falls behind on their property taxes or other city charges, the city places a lien on the property. And so hypothetically, if there was $1,000 charge, right, and you didn't pay that $1,000, then your property could go into tax sale for the amount that you owe on the property. And so that is really what the tax sale does. Tax sale, again, is when the buyer buys or they purchase the lien on the certificate. And when tax sale happens, it really helps the city collect money that is owed, such as unpaid property taxes or unpaid citations or other fees that may be on your property. So that's how the city collects their money through the tax sale process. It's important again to note that even if your property goes through tax sale, that you still own the physical property, but the lien is sold. Now, there is a process that if you go into tax sale, that a person can potentially go into foreclosing on the property. But by and large, when you lose when your home is sold in tax sale, again, the lien is sold, but not the actual property itself. So I want to be clear on that. So, when it comes to when it comes to important dates to remember surrounding tax sale, there are some things that we just want to highlight again. Some of this is done in my office, some of this is done in the Department of Finance. We really collaborate on some of this. So, in December, January, bills are being reviewed, right? So we start looking at the unpaid bills. We start looking at strategies and how we'll move forward with what that looks like. Early in February, I believe this year was about February the 4th, something called the FBLN, right? So when you get this document, it says FBLN. So it's your final bill and legal notice that is mailed to your house in the beginning of February. In the final bill and legal notice, in the FBLN, there has been a document that the city has created. My office, as well as the Department of Finance, as well as some of our other nonprofit partners, our innovation team, there is a insert that is in that document that has all kinds of resources for tax sale. It has information about offices to call. Again, it has your Baltimore City tax sale ombudsman, myself, on that document. It also has the Department of Finance's information, some of our nonprofit partners' information, because we want to do our best to get as many resources as possible into the hand of the constituent. This is not something that, this is not a trick. This is not a gotcha moment. We want to do our best to make sure that you have as many resources as possible so that people can be able to stay in their properties. That information goes out in the beginning of February. And then the tax sale deferral program, which is the program that I facilitate, the tax sale deferral program, it actually opens in the month of February. So we've been opening on the 15th for the last few years. On February the 15th, we've been opening our applications, and I'll get into this shortly about the details, but applications are available on Baltimore City's website. You can print the application and mail it in. You can print it and bring it in. You can go on to Baltimore City's website. There's a link to a portal that we call Neighborly. That there you can go on and you can put your application in digitally. So all of those options are available for you to be able to get that information. In addition to when tax sale comes around, in addition um, to you getting the actual final bill and legal notice, we also the finance department also they print out in the newspaper the tax sale list. Because again, this is another way for persons to be made aware that their property is at risk of tax sale. And so we also have the tax sale list published, and it actually happens twice leading up to tax sale, so that we can make sure that people know. Again, in addition to that, there's a reminder letter that is mailed out, so that you can know. Again, we want to maximize exposure, and we want to make sure that you know that that happens. If you follow the Department of Housing and Community Development, we have several things on our website that'll help you. On our Instagram, on yesterday, I was at a clinic. Our comms team, our communications team came out. We did a video, and it was me just talking to residents, showing them some of the things that were happening at the clinic. And so certainly make sure that if you feel like this information is beneficial to you, that you follow our Instagram page so that you can be aware of what we're doing in the department. So again, the tax sale deferral, it is the last day to apply for that is April the 15th. And so certainly if you have a tax bill and you qualify for the program, we want you to get that application in by April the 15th so that you can be able to be a part of the program. Also, the last day to pay down your bill under $1,000. Again, so in order for tax sale to happen, the bill that you have must be over $1,000, right? So if you have a bill and your bill is $800, then you would not be at risk for tax sale. If you have a bill and it's $900, you would not be at risk for tax sale. But once you get above $900, once you get to 1,000, you want to do your best to pay that bill down so that you are not at risk for tax sale. This is actually an improvement because last year and in years prior, that number was $750. And so this year, that number has been bumped up to $1,000, which is a great feat, great accomplishment, so that more persons would not be affected by tax sale. The tax sale actually happens in May. I believe this year it's on May the 18th. And so you would have time to get your property. So, a few things that you should know if your lien is sold. Again, I say this again, that you still own your home, right? But what it means is that a private buyer only owns the lien on your property. And when that private buyer owns the lien on your property, one of the ways that they're able to make money off of the tax sale is that they charge fees, they charge interest. There are other penalties that are involved, and the owner of the property would be subject to those fees and penalties. But it's important to note that even if for some reason your property gets involved in tax sale, that you can still fix the issue, that it is still an issue that can be resolved. There is a redemption period and some other things that you will be able to still get your property back, even if you've gone into tax sale. It looks like my okay, here we go. So we talked about in the last slide that whole redemption period piece. So again, so once the property is purchased in tax sale in May, um, then before September the 15th, even though your property has been purchased, you can still pay the city back the amount that was owed without the fees, right? So September the 15th, you would be able to pay if you're whatever the original the root price is, you will be able to pay the city price. There will be no legal fees. But after September the 15th, then you would have to not only pay the city back, but that you will also have to pay the legal fees plus the city amount. And again, the legal fees can be expensive, and so you want to try to do your best to pay those fees down. Also, again, you can also redeem the property. Redemption rather is possible for up to 2 years. The property can potentially go into foreclosure, or it can go back into tax sale. So you want to do your best to make sure that if you can, that you pay get those taxes paid, as well as you want to do your best to reach out for help if for some reason you can't. You want to be able to make sure that you take advantage of the resources, some of them that we're lifting here, but then some of our nonprofit partners that they may have access to, so that you can make sure that you do. So now, one of the programs that we do that the city offers a program. Again, this is a program that I facilitate on behalf of the Department of Finance. It is called the Tax Sale Deferral Program. The Tax Sale Deferral Program. It's important to note that the Tax Sale Deferral Program does not pay your bill, right? So because you get into tax sale deferral, that deferral does not pay your bill. But what deferral does is it defers the date of the payment to your bill, right? So what it does is it removes your home. So if your property if you owe in tax sale, and say you owe, again, it has to be over $1,000, but say you owe, $3,000 in taxes, that what you will still owe your taxes. You will still have your interest accruing, all of the things. But what happens is your property for this year would be taken out of the tax sale, so that we would not, so that your property, the lien would not be sold in tax sale, but you would have an additional amount of time to be able to get some resources to help you to pay your taxes, and so that you can get some assistance with figuring out a way, and that would take the money out, or that would take your property out of tax sale. So again, it removes your house from out of tax sale, but it does not pay the bill. It also, again, it prevents your property from the high interest and the foreclosure rates, right? So you don't have the threat of foreclosure, and you won't have those high interest rates, those lawyer fees that some people that go into tax sale will have. So it's important to note that about the tax sale deferral program, that the funding is limited, right? So we have approximately $2 million to be able to assist people. Now, when I say we have $2 million, it doesn't mean that we have $2 million to pay the bill with, but we can help people up to $2 million, right? So if we have, some people get 10,000, some people need 20,000, whatever the case may be, once that amount that we have assisted people with gets to about $2 million, that becomes the cap for our for the aid that we're able to get. It's important because of that, that if you have a tax bill, if you've received your final bill and legal notice, that you turn in your application as quickly as possible so that we're able to assist you. Again, because this program is offered on a first come, first serve basis. There are some qualifications for the tax sale deferral program that I want to lift for us today. And one of those qualifications is that the home that is in tax sale must be an owner occupied property. Right. This program is especially for people who live in the property that is in tax sale. Right. So you must live in that property. And so we would do some checks. We have some ways that we can figure it out, some ways that we partner with the state to be able to look to see if it's an owner occupied property. We do that. Also, not only must you live in the property, or must the person that is applying live in the property, but also your home must be assessed at less than $250,000, right? So if your property is valued at less than $250,000 or less, you would be a candidate for this program. And so we find, of course, houses, the values change and all of the things, but for the sake of our program, tax sale deferral, in order for you to do that, you would need to be valued at less than $250,000. Also, in order to apply for tax sale deferral, you would need to be considered what we say in the city, a legacy homeowner. Legacy homeowners are persons that have been in their property for at least 15 years, right? For those people that have been in the property for at least 15 years, oftentimes those are people who may be seniors. Those are people who may have had a mortgage and paid the mortgage off, right? And when I say paid it off, I mean paid it off completely. You done burnt your mortgage, and you no longer have that monthly bill. But sometimes when people pay off their mortgage and they pay off that monthly bill, they neglect to remember that they also now have to pay the taxes, because for people who have their mortgage, oftentimes the taxes are escrowed into your mortgage, and so you pay it like that. However, because there's some other things that I'll get into later, that sometimes if a relative owns a home, and after the relative owns a home, that the house is being passed down to someone in the family, then there are some special allowances that we are planning to make for that. That is called an heir property. So we are in the city and the state. We're looking at different ways to be able to accommodate and assist people with what we're calling heirs properties. And so we're looking at doing that. The financial threshold for tax sale deferral is that if you are 64 and under, then you would need to make $36,000 or less. $36,000 or less if you are under 65. If you're 64 and under. If you are 65 and over, you can make up to $75,000. So that's important to note. And we do verify finances. We do verify Social Security and all of those things to make sure that we're really helping and assisting the persons who need the help the most. Excuse me. So I know I lifted this earlier, but I want to do it again. That, how do you apply for tax sale deferral? You can apply online, and again, we have our neighborly portal where you can go on to submit your application. You could put your documentation right in our neighborly portal, or you can submit a paper application. Those applications are available online where you can go on and download it. You can fill it out, write it with your pen, your paper, and you can either scan it back in and email it to the address that's on file. You can walk it into our office. We're located at the Benton Building downtown, right across. We're right in between City Hall and War Memorial. We're located on the 11th floor, and so you can come there. You can drop it off there. But we are also we are available to help. Here is the DHCD tax sale info email. Certainly, if you have questions that you think of after our time together today, we certainly invite you to send us an email. We do get back to you. If you call us, we do answer the phone. And so we want to make sure that you know that we are here as a resource. Now, just a few other things that I want to lift as we are running down the hill, sprinting toward the end of our presentation. That there are some other programs that can assist persons who are in tax sale. One of those programs is our MHAP program. It's our Emergency Mortgage and Housing program. And so MHAP it assists people with taxes, water bills, mortgage, insurance, and things like that. That program is available when it is funded, right? And so, of course, we know that there are life cycles to some of these programs. And so while these programs are not always active, and so we don't always have resources to pay those things. However, when we do have the resources, this is one of the things that is extremely helpful to people that are able to get it. Also, the homestead tax credit, it limits the tax increases that are on your property. There are approximately 15,000 people in the city of Baltimore that qualify for the homestead tax credit, but unfortunately, they're not benefiting from the homestead tax credit. So there is some outreach that is taking place to make sure that people are able to get the homestead tax credit. I certainly would encourage you that if your property does not have the homestead tax credit, that you would call our partners at the state. SDAT, SDAT. You can Google them, you can call, and you can check to see if you are receiving the homestead tax credit. Also, the homeowner's property tax credit. It reduces your taxes that are owed, and certainly you can do some work there. The last thing that I have on this slide is the My Home, My Deed, My Legacy. Is free deed and title support. So again, earlier I talked about the whole heirs property, and so with the heirs property, certainly a person can have a loved one that owns the property. Once that loved one transitions, if there's not a will, or if there's not a someone on their deed that would pass the property down to, then you would become a then you would become potentially the recipient of the property potentially. So my home, my deed, my legacy helps you to sort out from a legal standpoint and to put the correct person's name on the deed so that moving forward you'll be able to handle the business of the property. And so my home, my deed, my legacy is a program that you can take advantage of. We have several other nonprofit partners, and they are able to assist with things like this to be able to help people that are heirs to property. We're working on diligently in our office a registry for people to be able to engage and put themselves on or put their property on so that it can list the property as a heir property property. And so we're looking forward to what that's going to look like soon in the coming weeks as we get prepared to unveil the heirs property registry. So again, as I close, I want to just highlight that we're here to help. Right. My office is a office that is much like Councilman Gray's, that we are here to assist, that we are a resource, that people call our office all the time. I know that sometimes we hear the cookie cutter kind of stories, but then there are stories where we need to kind of talk through some details to be able to see how it is that we need to move with some of the properties. And so certainly you're welcome to call my office. This is our number, the 410 396 3023 number. You can call and you can ask for a member of the tax sale team, or this number here is actually this number here is actually the number that is my desk number. Um, and so this is my direct number where you can be able to reach out to me. And that is actually my email address where you can reach out as well. So that is that information. And that concludes my presentation today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Donald. We really appreciate everything you do as far as like tax sale deferral stuff
Yep. Certainly, it's my pleasure.
for
It's
the
my pleasure
city.
to serve.
You're like a great resource for our office. Thank you.
Yep.
And then I noticed that we have some questions coming in the Q&A. So if you're ready, we can start with those questions. The first one, it looks like it was a question about like purchasing properties. It says, I have been wondering why investors have been buying up these properties
Uh-oh, Darian, it sounds like you cut out. I'll finish
and residents
reading.
aren't able to access investor.
You're
Uh-oh.
cut you're cutting in and out, Darian.
Oh, yeah, my internet's bad. If you want to just go ahead and read them.
Yeah. So the first question says, I've been wondering why investors have been buying up these properties and residents aren't able to access them. And I think they're referring to the tax sale debt. It says, when I called about houses at City Hall, met with hostility and told no, an investor is interested. Um, I guess they want to know more about purchasing the tax sale debt.
So the actual purchasing of the debt is done in a different office. And so I wouldn't be able to speak with authority to really kind of share details about the actual purchasing of the debt. The part that we work on is really of advocating for the constituent. And so I know that I've been on some of the calls and I've been a part of some of the teams, but I really don't feel confident in really answering those questions. So certainly, if you would like to call my office, my information is there, and I can get you an answer to how you can be a part of that process or what that looks like for you. But I'm not really versed in that part of the tax sale component.
Sounds good. Another person, I know you talked a little bit about this. They asked if you could talk a little bit more about options for like the heirs of properties and if there's limitations to resources, especially if they're in the process of transferring the ownership but aren't quite there yet. How do they access resources or work with you all to prevent the tax sale in the interim?
Yeah, so I would say that's a good candidate to call my office because we are in the process of literally building the heirs property registry. It's coming together every day, and so we are looking forward to making sure that persons that are heirs that they have a way to identify themselves to let us know that they're heirs, that they can let us know the property at which they have inherited, and then for us to be able to provide them with some resources and some protections to be able to avoid tax sale. It's really the heart of our mayor and the heart of really the city to make sure that people are able to for as much as we can to remain in their property, to age in place, and to be able to take advantage of really being able to maintain the wealth that they have in their homes. But again, we do our best to get this information out, to share what it is that the resources that we have, and to be able to make sure that people are able to take advantage of the resources.
And just to follow up on that question, there's an
hmm
additional follow-up that asks about the heirs property registry and what does
hmm
being a part of that registry do, and does it provide any type of protections or assistance?
So it does. So being a part of that, so again, it's unfolding day by day. And so once you reach out to my office, we will get some information from you in regards to there's an affidavit that'll need to be signed. There is some documentation that you'll have to bring in. And then we'll upload it into our neighborly system. We'll do some evaluating. There are some things that the finance office is working out to be able to establish how we will be able to protect those properties as well. My office will be the ones that is actually doing the legwork to make sure that properties are on the registry. Our finance office will set the boundaries and the standards for what it means once they're on the registry. We're looking, I believe that the timeline will be for like 3 years. That really helps a person to be able to do the work that needs to be done to untangle the title. Again, we mentioned that my home, my deed, my legacy, and then we have some other resources that help to do that work. We've got the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Services. We've got Pro Bono Resource Center, the SOS Fund. Those are some of the partners that we use to work with to help people to really sort through some of the things that they have. Sometimes there are resources. Again, resources are maintained and resources are available, at different times. Sometimes we aren't able to tell you, like, next month it'll be available, or in two
Right.
months it'll be available. But, when they are available, certainly those resources are for the public. And we do our best to make sure that the people who need them the most are able to get to those resources. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, I think so. And just to highlight in the chat for all of our attendees, Nika from Fight Blight Be More and the SOS program put in there that there is that um sorry, I just need to scroll up a little bit. Heirs are often eligible for homeowners tax credit and to call the SOS fund. And then also the SOS fund can also pay property tax debt off if a tax
hmm
sale foreclosure case has been filed in circuit court, as well as the website. Um, I think we have a couple more questions. So I
Yep.
see a
And I
question.
didn't even know Nika was watching, but Nika is one of our partners, and so
Yes,
certainly when we do that document in the beginning of the year, Nika is involved in that process. Nika and John are also great partners. We send folks their way, and they send folks our way too. And so we're excited to partner with them again. We do as a lot of the work that we do is not just in City Hall, right? Like, so we have community partners that are able to assist, and we throw the ball to them. They throw the ball to us. We're in constant communication, and so again, it's really our job and it's really our desire to take our outreach to the next level, to elevate the voice of our mayor and the heart to be able to make sure that people get this information and to partner with people to do it. So, yep. So
Thank you
glad
so
that
much.
Nika is here. She the
Yes,
bomb.
absolutely. She is the bomb. We have a couple more questions. Someone had asked, how long does it take to get an answer after you submit the application for the tax deferral program?
Yeah, so normally it depends on how many applications we have. Sometimes we can get an applic. I mean, depending if you submit all of your information, um, you submit your ID, your pay sources, your two bills. There's a potential that we can look at it and say, "Hey, this looks good," and we can put it in the system, and we can get you out the next day. But there's also a potential that it may take a week or so. Sometimes it's not because again there that the application has not been done, but sometimes it's because the amount of applications that we have. I will say that that is much easier for us to navigate through the applications when they're done online. When you bring the application in, and certainly we don't mind doing this work this way, but when you bring the application in, we do have to, scan everything and we have to put it in the profile, and we're doing the work on the front end. And so sometimes it creates a slower pace for us to do the work. But if there's someone on tonight and they've submitted an application and perhaps you haven't heard from someone on my team, certainly you're welcome to give me a call. I'll be more than glad to get you a status of your case so that we can be able to figure out if you have applied and where you are in the process.
Awesome. A next question is, I have a property for which the taxes were paid, although late, and the property was still in tax sale. I contacted the city to request verification and never received anything. However, I can have received correspondence from the person who acquired the tax lien. Any advice?
So that is an issue. So it would depend. So you certainly can call the Department of Finance. They will be the persons that will be able to assist you with that concern. It does matter when you pay, right? So if the property was sold in tax sale, when you pay matters. And so if you just say, hey, if you pay after the tax sale, you want to make sure that you call, that you track that information. You want to make sure that when you pay the Department of Finance, that you are paying on the tax bill, that it doesn't go to like your water bill or something else. So you do want to be able to call the Department of Finance, and they're really good at making sure that someone is able to kind of walk you through that. And so that would be my suggestion, especially if someone has purchased. Sounds like somebody may have purchased the lien. You want to make sure that you call the Department of Finance so that they can walk you through where you are in the process of your tax sale.
Excellent. Another question we have is for owner-occupied properties. What if there are multiple owners, but they don't all live in the home? Can we still access the resources?
Yep. So I would say remember when I said there were some cookie cutter cases, and then there were some cases that needed a little explanation. That's one of those cases that will need some explanation. So yep. So we would need to verify what that looks like. We would look at one of the things that we do is once someone reaches out to our office, we do pull the deed, and once we pull the deed, normally the deed will have the owners of the property, and so sometimes the owner may have transitioned, owner, it might be a couple and the spouses have separated or anything like that can happen. I would say reach out to our office, give us a chance to hear the case, hear the situation, and then we'll tell you how to move forward so that you can be able to do your best to apply for the resources. Certainly, if it's a case where we need to reach out to our partners over at Pro Bono Resource Center, Allison and Matt are wonderful. And so we normally, again, we do a good job of if something's really outside of our scope, or if we know that, SOS has some resources to do XYZ, then we do a good job of handing those people off. And so I would say give us a call, let us talk through it, and we could be able to try to figure out what's the best way to move forward to help you.
Awesome. Oh, it looks like one more question came in. Can you talk about tax property article SS 8-105B?
So I don't have my notebook with me. It's the session right now, and so there are a whole lot of numbers and dashes and dots and things, and so I don't know if that was a pop quiz question, but I don't know that one right offhand. There are a whole lot of things that are swirling around, articles and new legislation, and also lawsuits and all of the things. And so there are a whole lot of things swirling. And so I don't know exactly what that is for the wonderful person that asked that question. However, if you call my office tomorrow, I'm committed to figuring it out, and I'll be able to answer your question so that you can have a greater awareness than you probably already have. But I'm committed to helping you with that.
All right. Let me just make sure. Any more questions for us? Oh, hold on one second. It's a
So I do see
commercial
that.
industrial questionnaire, is what the attendee said. So recommendation is to reach out to discuss directly about it.
Yep,
Um, so that we make sure we're giving you the information, and feel free to reach out to our office as well if need be.
yep, sounds good. I
Okay,
do see that
great.
Nika says
Oh,
that the
yep.
SOS fund, they currently only have funds where there is a tax sale foreclosure filed. Again, so for us, if a foreclosure is filed, our office, we are able to assist in that regard. But if someone reaches out with a foreclosure file, we can send them to Nika, and they're able to assist. And so again, that's how we're able to kind of work holistically, to really kind of help residents to be able to work. So thanks, Nika, for the information.
Excellent. Well, I don't see any more questions, so we are going to close out tonight. Thank you so much for joining us and giving our residents the information. We really, really appreciate you. To everyone who attended, please feel free to reach out to our office, reach out to Donald's office, reach out to Nika. She has put additional information in the chat that we will also be sure to post in the comments section on the videos that we put up on our website. This was completely recorded. So thank you so much.
All right.